Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So this video, I just want to take a quick look at Harry and Meghan's latest venture with the World Health Organization. Harry and Meghan are very involved with them now. And you'll notice that this is right after, or soon, not long after, the United States has pulled out of the World Health Organization. Interesting. Prince Harry has been meeting every year with Tedros, as I've earlier talked about other videos. Tedros is in charge of the World Health Organization. He is not a medical doctor, but he has a bachelor in biology, a master's in immunology and infectious diseases, and a PhD in philosophy of community health. So he doesn't know how to treat people, but he's got a basic science background here. And when you look at the funding flow of the World Health Organization, you see the top two donors, the most amount of money going to the World Health Organization is number one, Gates Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates, and number two, Gavi Alliance, which is also Bill and Melinda Gates. So basically, I always say that the World Health Organization is the Bill Gates organization, in my opinion. So as you may have heard, the World Health Organization wants to be put in charge of the world's health mandates and activities in the case of a world, public health emergency, kind of like the one that just happened with COVID. Well, they want to prepare for the next one, right? So they want to be put completely in charge and making all the rules, and who has to lock down and who needs to be jabbed and all that kind of stuff. So they really want to be put in control of that, Bill Gates' association here. But it gets even more interesting. There's a lot more to know about what the World Health Organization is involved in. And I got some ideas here from this book, The COVID Code, My Life in the Medical Cult by Zoe Smith. She works as a medical coder, and she has for 20 years, and she was doing it during the COVID pandemic. And she goes into the history of medical coding, the medical codes that you need, hospitals and medical practices, in order to get paid for treating someone. Everything you have or can get, there's a code for it made by, and get this, the World Health Organization is behind, one of the organizations behind the world creating these they're called ICD-10 codes. So this is her job, to know about the codes and tracking them. She has a chapter here, Vaccine Injury Reporting Being Rigged, One Code to Rule Them All. And she wrote in April 2020, there was an unprecedented disruption in the ICD-10 code update schedule. And these codes are created by the World Health Organization, who works with the American Medical Association and the CDC and these other major medical associations. So it says April 2020, unprecedented disruption in the codes. Until that point, the only code available for reporting flu-like symptoms was B97.29. It was defined as the coronavirus as the cause of disease classified elsewhere. It was important to track COVID, so important that they stopped the presses and added U07.1, the diagnosis code for COVID-19. So the pandemic officially started in March 2020, but the cult, or the health agencies, who were telling the staff that a pandemic was coming in November 2019. The diagnosis code update for COVID-19 came less than a month after the official pandemic announcement. So then she goes on, data obscured. The medical coding system is not just for tracking causes of death, it also is used for research, disease surveillance, drug and device safety tracking. These side effects are carefully monitored and reported during clinical trials. Emergency use authorization was issued for all COVID-related drugs and vaccines. Tracking vaccine refusal before the pandemic. Codes for reporting vaccine injuries have been published in the ICD code book for decades. In all the years that I've been coding, I've never had the opportunity to report a vaccine injury. I only knew it was possible because the coding program asks several questions to help coders arrive at the right code. It's like a Google search with auto predicts your search terms. Tracking vaccine refusal, on the other hand, was carefully monitored. As a coder, I reported them frequently. If I didn't, it would count against my accuracy, which would cost me my job. The code for vaccine refusal is vague. It's Z28.20, quote, immunization not done because of patient refusal due to unspecified reason. It doesn't indicate which vaccine was refused or why. Z2820 is primarily reported on maternity patients. Expectant moms were highly discouraged from delivering in a hospital if they did not comply with the entire vaccine schedule during pregnancy. The refusal of any vaccine earned them a vaccine refusal code, which followed them around, not just during pregnancy, but for the rest of their lives. Occasionally, their insurance denied coverage for failure to comply. Child Protective Services use those codes as a reason to question parenting skills. So that's just some of the facts behind these codes and how they're used and how they're part of your official record. And, there's more into it than that, but this is how you can see that they want to make everybody have a digital ID and all their medical information, and of course all your codes will be in there, and they follow you to all hospitals. All hospitals are connected on the Palantir system, so there's no going to a small town hospital isn't going to save you because they're all connected. So if you've got this code, vaccine refusal code of Z28.20, it'll follow you to any medical practice or hospital you go to, and it can work against you getting reimbursed with your insurance, and it could also get you a visit from CPS. How do you like them apples? And this is just one aspect of these codes that are created by the World Health Organization, American Medical Association, etc. There's another chapter here. The WHO tracks everything for COVID except vaccine injuries. The World Health Organization created specific codes for tracking people with a history of COVID, Z86.16. These are codes for all the new COVID drugs like remdesivir. There are separate codes for each brand of COVID vaccine. They also felt it was necessary to implement a code for tracking the unvaccinated. That would be Z28.310. So you got a refusal code and you've got an unvaccinated, if you're unvaccinated code. If they created all these codes to monitor everything about COVID, why wouldn't they use them for tracking vaccine uptake? The fact that the ICD-10 system is good enough to track everything else means it's reliable enough for international data tracking. Why did they also create a Vigibase and a self-reporting app called MediSafe and a VAERS system? There are several reasons to create an additional reporting system to hide behind statistics, to introduce confusion, and to create doubt. I hope it's obvious to everyone that they had a perfectly good vaccine safety signal system, but they were not using it. The WHO has controlled, right here, she's got right here. Now remember, she's a medical coder, decades experience. She knows the WHO, the World Health Organization, has controlled the ICD-10 system for over a century. It is not as if the WHO is unaware that the ICD system should be used to report injuries. The WHO could stop the presses at any point to add vaccine injury codes, but they won't. And then it goes on how, they follow certain things but don't follow other things. And that's how they base all their decisions, just on the data they collected. The WHO quietly released a code that would unlock the real damage assessment. The published code is U12.9, quote, COVID vaccines causing adverse effects in the therapeutic use. So they did quietly release a code about adverse effects in January 2021. It was on a schedule to match the rollout of the vaccine program, but they didn't publicize the code or add it to the official ICD-10 codebook or software, leaving medical coding professionals like her unaware that the code existed and unable to report vaccine injuries specifically due to COVID-19 vaccines. And then she goes on to say that a Freedom of Information request was submitted to the National Office of Statistics in the UK, requesting to confirm the number of COVID vaccine deaths. The response is where I discovered that code that would have enabled widespread vaccine injury reporting. The ONS responded that there were 18 deaths reported with the code U12.9, reflecting COVID vaccine adverse events. The World Health Organization and the American Medical Association have different approved versions of the ICD-10. Strangely, in all my years of coding, I had never heard of the WHO having a different code set than the AMA. Located on the WHO website was an entire chapter of emergency use only diagnosis codes. Hidden in a separate update was the COVID vaccine adverse event code U12.9. The form appeared to be official, but it lacked the WHO letterhead and branding. So anyways, I just thought it was interesting. It's an interesting book going into how they're monitoring and controlling everything through the World Health Organization with these ICD codes, and how the implications of these codes are far-reaching as far as statistical measures of who died of COVID or with COVID, and who died, period, if anyone, because all these medical coders didn't even know there was a code to report. And if it's not reported, it's not in the statistics. It doesn't exist. It never happened, statistically speaking. And again, that's what the American Medical Association, the CDC, World Health Organization, so that this is what they go on. So it's very, shady business, and very important, and it's, in my opinion, very evil. And Harry and Meghan, of course, are involved with this group. So yeah, some things to keep in mind, but I thought you'd find this interesting. Let me know what you think about all of this and what if your experience with this type of thing. All right, so thanks for watching. Bye bye.